Marcus Davis punched his fist through the window, and glass buried itself in his arm down to the bone. Blood sprayed across the brick wall. A woman's hand shot through the broken frame and grabbed his wrist so hard her nails broke skin. He was standing on 6 inches of crumbling ledge, 3 stories above concrete. No rope, no harness, no gear. Just a warehouse worker in a hoodie who heard somebody screaming and couldn't walk away. 5 hours later, he put on his only suit, walked into a job interview that could save his daughter's life. And the woman behind the CEO's desk was the same woman he'd just pulled out of that fire. But what happened next? Nobody saw coming. Comment your city so I can see how far this story reaches. Subscribe and hit that bell. You don't want to miss how this ends. His foot slipped. Marcus Davis felt the brick crumble under his boot, and his body swung backward into nothing. 3 stories of empty air below him. His fingers clawing mortar that wasn't there. His legs kicking at a wall that didn't care. For 1 full second, he was dead. He knew it. His brain ran the math faster than thought. 30 feet to concrete. Nobody to catch him. And Zoe wakes up tomorrow without a father. His left hand caught a gap between bricks. He slammed his body flat against the wall and held on. His fingers screamed. His shoulder popped. His breath came in short, ragged bursts that tasted like smoke. "Don't you die here," he said through clenched teeth. "Don't you dare die here." 15 minutes ago, he'd been driving home from a 10-hour warehouse shift. 15 minutes ago, the biggest problem in his life was an interview at noon, and a back that wouldn't stop aching. 15 minutes ago, Marcus Davis was nobody. A 33-year-old single black father working nights, invisible to a city that never looked twice at men like him. Now he was on a 6-inch ledge on a burning building, bleeding from both hands, trying not to become a story on the evening news. How'd he get here? Same way he got everywhere. By not being able to walk past trouble. The morning had started the same as every other. 6:47 a.m. His alarm didn't go off. Marcus opened his eyes in the dark, already 13 minutes behind, and every muscle in his body filed a formal complaint. 10 hours loading trucks at Grayson Warehousing. 47 pallets. His back was a knotted rope. His knees popped when he stood. His hands were cracked from cold and labor and the kind of work that nobody thanks you for. He sat on the edge of the pull-out couch, his bed because the 1 bedroom belonged to Zoe, and pressed his palms against his face. "Get up, Marcus, come on, get up." 3 years of saying that. 3 years since Angela walked out the door and into a running car he didn't recognize. He'd been holding Zoe, who was 4. Angela hadn't even looked back. "I didn't sign up for this life, Marcus. I didn't sign up for broke." He'd said nothing, just held his daughter and closed the door. That was the last time Zoe saw her mother. 3 years. No calls, no birthday cards, nothing. Marcus stood, checked his phone. 2 messages. Miss Lorraine, his 68-year-old neighbor. "Baby girl's sleeping good. She made you breakfast. You better eat it. I mean it, Marcus." And a calendar reminder he'd set 3 weeks ago. Interview. Cole Enterprises, 12 p.m. Don't be late. This is it. He stared at those words. Facilities manager. $55,000 a year. Benefits. Day hours. A life where he could actually see his daughter awake. A life where he stopped choosing between electricity and groceries. He'd applied expecting nothing. Black man, no degree, warehouse worker, volunteer firefighter experience that nobody in corporate America cared about. But they'd called back, and Marcus had told Zoe not to tell anyone. "Why not, Daddy?" Because if it doesn't work out, I don't want people feeling sorry for us." "Nobody feels sorry for us, Daddy. We're awesome." She had her mother's face, and none of her mother's coldness. That was the miracle of Zoe Davis. Marcus grabbed his keys and walked out. He was 2 blocks from home when the smoke changed his life. Not a little smoke. A wall of it. Black, angry, pouring out of the 3rd floor of a building on 7th Street like something alive. Marcus slowed the truck. Sirens wailed in the distance, but they were blocks away. Minutes away. "Keep driving," he told himself. "Fire department's coming. You've got the interview. You've got Zoe. Keep driving, Marcus." Then, the scream. A woman's voice. Not calling for help. Past that. This was the sound people make when they've stopped believing help is coming. The sound of someone saying goodbye to the world through smoke and glass. Marcus pulled to the curb. 7:15 a.m. God forgive me if this goes wrong. He was out of the truck before the engine died. 12 years as a volunteer firefighter. 19 to 31. Every Saturday, every holiday, every middle-of-the-night call-out until the city cut the budget and killed his squad 8 months ago. Captain Rodriguez had shaken his hand on the last day. "You're one of the best I ever trained, Marcus. I'm sorry." "Not your fault, Cap. The city should be ashamed. The city's been ashamed my whole life. Never stopped anything." 8 months since he'd worn the gear, but the training was still in his hands, still behind his eyes. He scanned the building in 3 seconds flat. Main entrance, gone. Ground floor fully involved. Fire was climbing. 3rd floor. The scream came from the 3rd floor. Fire escape on the east side. Rusted, old, the kind of thing code enforcement ignores in neighborhoods like this. Marcus grabbed the ladder and pulled. It held. He went up. 3 steps at a time, metal hot under his palms. 2nd floor windows blowing out as he passed, heat pushing at him like hands trying to shove him off. Inside the building, something collapsed. A deep, sick crunch, like bones breaking. 3rd floor platform. Marcus stopped. She was right there, 15 feet away. Through the window, he could see her. Dark hair, hands pressed flat against glass she couldn't break, mouth open, coughing, choking, dying. The smoke behind her was so thick she looked like she was drowning in it. Between Marcus and that window, no walkway, no ladder, no path, just a brick ledge, 6 inches wide, 3 stories above pavement. "That's not enough ledge," his brain said. "It's enough," his body answered. He climbed on. The first step nearly killed him. His boot hit brick and mortar crumbled. He dug his fingers into the wall, found a gap, held. 2nd step. 3rd. The woman saw him and her eyes went wide. Not with hope, with horror. She started shaking her head, pounding the glass, pointing down. "Go back. Don't." "Hold on," Marcus shouted. "I'm coming. Don't you quit on me." 4th step. 5th. His fingers were bleeding, the brick chewing his skin raw. The wall radiated heat. The fire was in the apartment next to hers, eating through drywall, coming for her. 6th. 7th. His foot slipped, and there he was, hanging by his fingertips over 30 feet of nothing, legs swinging, the weight of his body pulling him backward. 1 second, the longest second of his life. He found the ledge, planted his foot, pressed himself flat. "You're okay," he said. "You're okay. Move." 8th step. 9th. 10th. He was at the window. Her face was inches from his, separated by glass. Up close he could see it. The glazed eyes, the blue lips, The soot tracked through tears on her cheeks. She was dying. Right there, right in front of him, she was dying. The window was locked, painted shut, years of landlord neglect sealing it tight. Marcus pulled back his elbow and drove his fist through the glass. He heard the crack before he felt the pain. Then the pain hit. Glass buried in his forearm, deep, tearing through his jacket and into muscle. Blood came fast, bright red, running. He didn't stop. "Give me your hand," he yelled. "Right now!" She grabbed his wrist with both hands. He grabbed hers. "I'm pulling you through. Protect your face. Ready?" She nodded. Tears, snot, terror, trust. 1, 2, 3. Marcus pulled. She came through the window frame and glass cut both of them. Her arms, her shoulders, his chest through the hoodie. She cried out. He kept pulling until she was on the ledge beside him, both of them pressed against the wall, both of them bleeding, the fire roaring in the apartment behind her. "Don't look down," Marcus said. "Eyes on me." "I can't. It's too high. I'm going to fall." "What's your name?" "What?" "Your name, right now. Tell me."
Vanessa.
"Vanessa, I'm Marcus. I need 60 seconds of your trust. That's it."
Can you give me that?
She was shaking so hard he could feel it through his arm around her waist. But she nodded. "1 step, that's all. Just 1. They moved. 1, 2. Marcus kept his body between her and the edge. His forearm was on fire. The cut was deep, maybe to the bone. Blood soaking his sleeve and dripping off his fingertips onto the ledge. "How are you so calm?" she gasped. "I'm not. I'm scared out of my mind. But my daughter doesn't know that word, so neither do I." 3, 4, 5. Behind them, the window exploded. Flames punched through, and the heat hit their backs like opening an oven door. Vanessa screamed, "Don't stop! 3 more steps!" 6, 7, 8. Fire escape platform. Solid metal. Marcus pulled her onto it, and her knees buckled. He caught her. "Can you walk?" "I think." "Good. We go down. Now." He half-carried her down the stairs. The metal was groaning, heating up. First floor. Ground. Concrete under their feet. Fire trucks screaming around the corner. Paramedics running. "Ma'am, we need to check you." Vanessa grabbed Marcus's arm. "Him first. He's bleeding. He saved—" "We'll get to him. Sir, let me see that arm." "I'm fine." "Sir, that needs stitches. I said I'm fine." A hand grabbed Marcus's shoulder. He turned. Darnell. Full gear, helmet off, eyes wide. "Marcus? Marcus Davis?" "D. What the hell, man? What the actual hell?" "I was driving by." "You were driving by and climbed a burning building? No gear? No line? Nothing?" "I saw you on that ledge from the truck, Marcus. I almost had a heart attack." "She was screaming, D. What was I supposed to do?" "Call 911. Wait for us, not kill yourself." "You were 4 minutes away. She had 2. Darnell stared at him. "You're insane." "Probably." "Your arm is destroyed." "Probably." Darnell grabbed him and hugged him hard. Marcus winced. "Easy, that's the bad arm." "I don't care." Darnell held on for another second, then let go. "Let the paramedics stitch you up." "Can't." Marcus checked his watch. 7:32 a.m. "Got somewhere to be." "Where could you possibly need to be right now?" "Job interview, noon." "A job interview? Marcus, your arm is—" "My arm is my problem. My daughter is my priority, and she needs me to make that interview." Darnell knew that look. Everyone who knew Marcus knew that look. The one that meant the conversation was over. "Go," Darnell said. "But call me later, promise." "Yeah." "Promise me, Marcus." "I promise, I'll call." Marcus turned to find Vanessa, but she was already in the ambulance, oxygen mask on, blanket around her shoulders. Through the open doors, he could see her looking around, looking for him. He pulled his hood up and walked away, past the news van pulling up, past the reporter jumping out with a camera, past all of it. He climbed into his truck, sat there. His hand shook against the steering wheel.
What if you fell?
The voice came from somewhere inside him. It sounded like Angela.
What happens to Zoe? You die for a stranger and your daughter grows up alone. What kind of father does that?
"The kind who can look his daughter in the eye," Marcus said to the empty truck. He turned the key and drove home. He stood in the bathroom and peeled off his hoodie. Blood had soaked through to his skin. The cut ran elbow to wrist, deep, ugly, still bleeding. The kind of wound that needed an emergency room. Marcus opened the dollar store first aid kit, the one for Zoe's scraped knees. He poured rubbing alcohol straight into the wound. His vision went white. His knees hit the floor. He grabbed the edge of the bathtub with his good hand and bit down so hard his jaw cramped. No sound. Zoe wasn't here, but the habit was. Never let anyone hear you break. 12 butterfly bandages, every one he had. He closed the wound strip by strip, each pull sending fire up his arm. Then gauze, then tape. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't medical, but it held. The shower burned. Ash and smoke ran off him in gray water. He stood under the spray and shook, not from cold, from the adrenaline crashing out of his system, from the delayed reality of what he'd done. 3 stories, 6 inches, 1 slip. He shut the water off and got dressed. The suit hung alone in the closet. Charcoal gray, $8 from Goodwill. White shirt, second-hand. Blue tie Zoe picked out at a church rummage sale.
This one, Daddy, it matches your eyes.
Baby, my eyes are brown.
Then it matches your heart. Blue means brave.
Marcus put on the tie, rolled his sleeves down. The bandage still showed through the white fabric. Nothing he could do about that. Mirror. A black man in a second-hand suit with split knuckles, a wrapped arm, and bags under his eyes from 3 years of night shifts. He didn't look like a facilities manager. He didn't look like someone Cole Enterprises would hire. He looked like a father who was running out of time. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Fire rescue hero identified. Marcus Davis. Channel 9 requesting interview. He deleted it. Second buzz. Miss Lorraine.
Your baby's ready. She wants to see you before school. And Marcus? Eat the eggs.
He texted back. On my way. Save me every bite. Zoe hit him like a cannonball off Miss Lorraine's porch.
Daddy!
Marcus caught her with his left arm. She wrapped around him and squeezed. Maple syrup and pencil shavings. That was what his daughter smelled like every morning. The best smell in the world. Baby girl.
Daddy, I made you eggs, but they got cold, and Mrs. Lorraine said I used too much salt, but I don't think I did, and...
She stopped, eyes on his arm.
Daddy, you're hurt.
Scratch from work, nothing big.
That's not a scratch. That's a whole bandage.
Looks worse than it is.
Does it hurt?
Little bit. But I'm tough, remember?
Super tough?
Super tough.
Superheroes don't get hurt, Daddy.
Yeah, they do. That's what makes them heroes. They get hurt and keep going. Zoe processed this, then hugged him again, gently, carefully, like he was something fragile. 7 years old, and already taking care of him. Miss Lorraine stood in the doorway, arms crossed, reading glasses on. The look. "Marcus?" "Miss Lorraine?" "That's not a warehouse scratch." "It is." "Mm-hmm." She held his gaze. She never believed his lies, and they both knew it. "Go get that job. That little girl deserves a daddy who comes home before dark." "Yes, ma'am." In the truck, Zoe buckled in, Marcus eating cold eggs with exaggerated bites. "Good?" she asked. "Best eggs I ever had." "Really? Because Mrs. Lorraine said too much salt." "Mrs. Lorraine is wrong. These are perfect." Zoe smiled. Then the serious face came, the one that made her look 30 years older. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby."
You gonna get the job today? The one where you don't work at night?
"I'm gonna try." "You're gonna get it." "You don't know that, Zoe." "Yes, I do. You're the smartest daddy in the whole world." "Baby, and when you get it, when, not if, can we get a puppy?" Marcus laughed. The sound broke loose from somewhere deep and tight in his chest. "Let's get the job first." "I already picked a name." "For a puppy we don't have." "Captain." "Captain?" "Like Captain America, because he's brave and helps people. Like you, Daddy." Marcus couldn't talk. He stared at the road and blinked hard and kept driving. "Captain's a great name," he said when he could. "I know. I'm excellent at names." He dropped her at school. She kissed his cheek, grabbed her backpack, ran. Halfway to the door, she spun around. "Daddy!" "What?" "Don't be nervous. Just be you." She was gone before he could answer. Marcus sat in the parking lot. His arm throbbed. His back ached. He smelled like smoke under cheap cologne. He was wearing an $8 suit and a tie his daughter said matched his heart. In 3 hours, he'd walk into a building where nobody looked like him, where qualified meant degrees and connections and a last name that opened doors instead of closing them, where a black man from the east side with busted hands and butterfly stitches was everything they weren't looking for. "Just be you," his 7-year-old had said. Marcus turned the key. The truck coughed, caught, and carried him toward the thing that was about to change everything, though not the way he expected. Not even close. The parking garage at Cole Enterprises charged $18 for the first hour. Marcus sat in his truck staring at the sign, doing math he didn't want to do. $18. That was 3 gallons of milk. That was Zoe's lunch money for a week. That was the difference between keeping the lights on and getting a shut-off notice. He parked on the street 4 blocks away. Free. The walk gave him time to think, which was the last thing he needed. Every step reminded him of something. The throb in his arm, the ache in his back, the smell of smoke that he was half convinced was still on him despite the shower and the cologne he'd borrowed from Darnell 6 months ago and never returned. By the time he reached the building, his confidence was a thin wire stretched to breaking. Cole Enterprises occupied the top 6 floors of a glass tower downtown. Marcus had driven past it 100 times on warehouse runs and never once imagined walking through the front door. The lobby was all marble and light, the kind of space designed to make people like Marcus feel exactly what he was feeling right now. Small. He pushed through the revolving door at 11:45, 15 minutes early. His father had taught him that. Raymond Davis, who'd worked 31 years at the steel mill before his heart gave out at 54. "You show up early, Marcus. Always. A black man shows up on time, they say he's late. He shows up early, they can't say nothing." His father had been dead 6 years. Marcus still heard him every day. The lobby was full of people who belonged here, Expensive suits, leather bags, tablets, and coffee cups with names written in marker. They moved with the kind of ease that comes from never wondering if you're in the right place. Marcus moved like a man trying not to leave fingerprints. He approached the front desk. The receptionist was young, blonde, polished. She looked up, and something flickered across her face. Just for a half-second, so fast most people would miss it. But Marcus didn't miss it. He'd been seeing that flicker his whole life. The quick assessment, the recalculation, the tiny adjustment in tone. "Can I help you?" "Marcus Davis, I have a noon interview for the facilities manager position." She checked her screen. The flicker again. Surprise this time, like the name on her screen didn't match the man in front of her. "Yes, Miss Cole will see you shortly. Please have a seat." "Thank you, ma'am." He sat in a chair that probably cost more than his truck. Across from him, two men in suits were talking about quarterly projections and market penetration and synergy. Words Marcus knew individually, but not in that order. One of them glanced at Marcus, then looked away. Not rude, just dismissing. The way you look at furniture. Marcus folded his hands in his lap and realized his knuckles were still raw from the ledge. He tucked them under his thighs. His phone buzzed. Darnell. "Bro, the news is running the fire story. They got your name but no picture yet. Somebody's gonna connect the dots. You good?" Marcus typed back. "Don't care. Interview in 10 minutes. Pray for me." Darnell. "Been praying for you since 2009, fool. Go get it." Marcus almost smiled. Almost. A woman appeared. Young, black, professional. Crisp blazer, warm eyes. The first person in this building who looked at Marcus like he was a human being and not a question mark. "Mr. Davis?" "Yes, ma'am." "I'm Jessica, Miss Cole's executive assistant. She's ready for you." Marcus stood. His knees popped. Loudly. Jessica pretended not to hear. "Right this way." They walked down a long hallway. Photos on the walls, ribbon cuttings, product launches, charity events, magazine covers. One photo showed a woman shaking hands with the governor. Another showed the same woman at a podium with Cole Enterprises, 10 years of innovation behind her. Marcus couldn't see her face clearly in the photos. The frames were too high, the lighting too glossy. "Miss Cole founded the company 12 years ago," Jessica said, making conversation. "Started with 3 employees. Now we're at 400 and growing." "That's impressive." "She's impressive. Fair warning, she's direct. Doesn't do small talk. But she's the best boss I've ever had." "Appreciate the heads up." They stopped at a corner office. Jessica knocked once and opened the door. "Miss Cole, Marcus Davis is here." "Thank you, Jessica. Send him in." Marcus took a breath, rolled his shoulders, felt the bandage pull against the wound on his arm. This was it. This was the shot. The one chance to give Zoe the life she deserved. Whatever happened in the next 30 minutes would decide everything. He walked in. The office was large. That was the first thing he noticed. The second thing was the window. Floor to ceiling, the whole city spread out below. The third thing stopped his heart. The woman behind the desk stood up. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, navy suit. A small bandage on her left hand that matched the scratches on her forearms. Scratches Marcus recognized because he'd watched them happen. Because he'd been holding her wrist when the glass did it. "You," she said. The word came out like all the air had left the room. Marcus couldn't move. His brain was running, but his body was locked. The woman from the fire. The woman from the ledge. The woman he'd pulled through the broken window 5 hours ago. Standing behind a mahogany desk with her name on a brass plate. Vanessa Cole. CEO. Cole Enterprises. You're Miss Cole, Marcus managed. And you're... Her hand went to her mouth. You're him. You're the man from this morning. I didn't know. Marcus heard his own voice like it belonged to someone else. I swear to God, I didn't know. I applied 3 weeks ago. I had no idea you were... I didn't even know your last name until right now. Vanessa came around the desk slowly, like she was approaching something that might disappear. The firefighter on the ledge. You broke my window. You pulled me out. Yes, ma'am. And then you left. You just left. Before I could even... She stopped. Her eyes dropped to his arm, the bandage visible through his shirt. Your arm. You didn't go to the hospital? No, ma'am. Why not? Marcus hesitated. The truth was embarrassing. The truth was the kind of thing you don't say in a job interview at a company like this. But he'd already told Zoe he'd try, and trying meant being honest, even when honest was ugly. Because I can't afford it, and because I had to be here at noon. Vanessa stared at him. You stitched yourself up. Butterfly bandages. From a first aid kit. From the dollar store. It's what I keep for my daughter's scraped knees. Something moved across Vanessa's face. Not pity. Marcus would have seen pity and walked out. This was something else. Recognition, maybe. Like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. Not just the man on the ledge, but the man underneath. Should I leave? Marcus said. I understand if this is too strange. You can interview other candidates. I wouldn't... Sit down, Marcus. He sat. She didn't go back behind her desk. She took the chair beside him. Same level. No barrier between them. I need to tell you something, she said. About this morning. From my side. You don't have to. I do. Because you need to understand what you did. Vanessa folded her hands. Her left one was trembling slightly. I woke up to smoke. By the time I understood what was happening, the hallway was gone, fully blocked. I couldn't get to the stairs, couldn't get to the fire escape. I tried the window, but it was painted shut. Years of building maintenance neglect. I hit it with a chair. Nothing. Hit it with my hands. She held up her bandaged palm. Nothing. Marcus listened. His jaw was tight. The smoke was filling the room. I could feel myself getting dizzy, losing focus. I knew what that meant. I'd read about it. How smoke inhalation kills you before the fire does. How you just go to sleep. She paused. I called 911. They said trucks were on the way. 4 minutes. But I could feel the heat coming through the floor. I didn't have 4 minutes. You didn't, Marcus said quietly. I went back to the window. I was pressing my hands against the glass, not even hitting it anymore, just pressing. Like I was saying goodbye to the outside. And I remember thinking about my mother, about how she'd get the call, about how she'd have to identify me. Vanessa's voice cracked for the first time. I was preparing to die, Marcus. Actually preparing. Making peace with it. And then I looked up, and there was a man on a ledge. Marcus swallowed. No uniform, no helmet, no gear. Just a man in a hoodie and work boots, inching along 6 inches of brick like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I thought I was hallucinating. I thought the smoke was making me see things. Because nobody does that. Nobody climbs a burning building for a stranger. I couldn't hear you scream and keep driving. But anyone else would have. You know that. Anyone else calls 911 and waits and hopes. You got out of your truck and climbed. I used to be a firefighter, 12 years volunteer. It's just training. Training doesn't explain the ledge. Training doesn't explain no gear, no rope, no backup plan. Training tells you to wait for your crew. What you did, that was something else. Marcus didn't have an answer for that, so he said nothing. Vanessa straightened up, wiped her eyes once, quickly, the way people do when they're not used to crying in front of strangers. Let's talk about the job. The shift caught Marcus off guard. 1 second they were in the fire, the next they were in an interview. But he adjusted. He'd been adjusting his whole life. You applied for facilities manager, Vanessa said. Why this position? Because I need stable work with day hours. I'm a single father. My daughter is 7. I work warehouse nights right now, which means I leave before she goes to sleep and get home after she wakes up. I see her for maybe 2 hours a day.
3, if I'm lucky. Marcus paused.
She made me breakfast this morning. It was cold by the time I got there. She'd been keeping it warm for me, waiting. And she shouldn't have to wait. She's 7. She should have a dad who's there. What's her name? Zoe. Tell me about her. She's the best person I know. Smarter than me by a mile. She picks out my ties and tells me blue means brave. She wants a puppy named Captain. She told me this morning not to be nervous. Just be myself. Marcus stopped. I'm telling you too much. You're not. Keep going. What else do you want to know? Your background, facilities management experience. Honestly, not much formal. I was a volunteer firefighter for 12 years. That taught me building systems, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, safety protocols. I can fix most things and figure out what I can't fix. But corporate facilities management? I'd be learning. So you're underqualified. On paper, yes ma'am.
We had 43 applications. 12 made it to interview stage. 3 are finalists. 2 of them have engineering degrees. 1 has 15 years of corporate facilities experience at a Fortune 500. Marcus's chest tightened. I understand. Do you? Because I need to ask you the hard question, and I need an honest answer. I'll give you one. Why should I hire you over candidates with better resumes, more experience, and degrees you don't have? Marcus looked at Vanessa Cole, CEO, self-made, the woman he'd pulled through a broken window. And he made a decision. The same kind of snap decision he'd made at 7:15 that morning. No calculation, no strategy, just truth. Because I don't walk past problems, he said. When something's broken, I fix it. When someone needs help, I help. I don't wait for permission. I don't wait for someone more qualified. I just handle it. That's who I am. It's who I've always been. You've got candidates with better degrees. I'm sure they're smart. I'm sure they'd do fine. But this morning, your building was on fire and you were dying behind a window and those candidates weren't there. I was. The room was very quiet. That's not a resume answer, Marcus added. I know that. You asked me why, and that's my why. I care, deeply, about people, about doing the work, about not cutting corners. You can teach someone systems and procedures. You can't teach someone to give a damn. Vanessa didn't respond right away. She stood and walked to the window. The city was spread out below, 1,000 buildings, 1,000,000 lives, and somewhere in one of those buildings, Marcus's daughter was sitting in a classroom, trusting that her daddy was getting the job. You're right, Vanessa said with her back to him. You are underqualified on paper. The other candidates look better in every measurable way. Marcus nodded. He'd expected this. He'd always expected this. But none of them saved my life this morning, she turned around. And before you say it, no, I'm not hiring you because you saved me. I don't make business decisions based on gratitude. I built this company from nothing, 3 employees to 400. I did that by hiring people with character, not just credentials. Then why? Because in 30 minutes, you've shown me more honesty than most people show in 30 years. Because you told me the truth about your arm, your finances, your daughter, your qualifications. All things a smarter candidate would have hidden. Because you climbed a building this morning with no safety net, no backup plan, and no expectation of reward. And that tells me exactly what kind of man you are when no one's watching." Marcus's hands were shaking. He pressed them against his knees. "I need someone who cares about this building and the people in it, the way you cared about a stranger at 7 o'clock this morning. I need someone who fixes things before they become disasters. I need someone I can trust." Vanessa walked back to where Marcus was sitting. "The job is yours, if you want it." "What?" $55,000 a year. Full benefits, medical, dental, vision. Day shift, 7 to 4. You start Monday." Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "Marcus? I want to make sure I understand." His voice was thick. He could feel something rising in his chest that he hadn't let loose in 3 years. "You're offering me the position." "I am. And this isn't because of this morning. This morning confirmed what your interview proved. You're the right person. The other candidates, the ones with degrees, will find other jobs. You need this one. And more importantly, I need you." Marcus pressed his palms against his eyes. His shoulders shook once. He caught it, held it. But Vanessa saw. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I'm sorry, I'm not usually—" "Marcus, you climbed a burning building 6 hours ago, stitched your own arm with butterfly bandages, put on a second-hand suit, and walked in here and gave me the most honest interview I've ever conducted. You're allowed a moment." He took it. Just a few seconds. He breathed in, breathed out. And when he looked up, his eyes were clear. "I'll work harder than anyone you've ever hired," he said. "That's not a promise. That's a fact. I believe you. And I need you to know, what happened this morning, the fire, the ledge, that's not why I'm here. I applied 3 weeks ago. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know any of this." "I know. Because I don't want special treatment. I don't want anyone in this company thinking I got the job because of—" "Nobody will know about this morning. Not from me. As far as this company is concerned, I hired the best candidate. Which I did." Vanessa extended her hand. "Welcome to Cole Enterprises, Marcus." He shook her hand. Firm. Steady. The same hand that had pulled her through a window. "Thank you," he said, "for this chance. Thank you for not driving past a burning building." Marcus stood. His legs felt unsteady. He walked toward the door, then stopped. "Miss Cole." "Vanessa." "Vanessa. The other candidates. The ones with degrees and 15 years of experience. They probably deserve this too." "Maybe. But they didn't show me who they were. You did. Character, Marcus. It's the one thing you can't fake." He nodded, opened the door, walked out. Jessica was waiting in the hallway. She took one look at his face and smiled. "Good news?" "I start Monday." "I knew it!" She said it like she meant it. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Davis." Marcus walked back down the hallway with the photos and the glass and the marble, past the men talking about synergy, past the receptionist who'd flickered, through the revolving door and out into the cold January air. He made it to his truck before he broke. He sat in the driver's seat of his 2004 Ford with 230,000 miles, put his head on the steering wheel, and cried. Not the quiet kind, the deep kind. The kind that comes from 3 years of loading trucks at midnight and stitching your own wounds and sleeping on a pull-out couch so your daughter can have the bedroom. The kind that comes from being told your whole life that you're not enough and then walking into a room and being told you are. He cried until he was empty. Then he wiped his face, picked up his phone, and called Miss Lorraine. "Lorraine speaking." I got it. Silence. Then, say that again. I got the job, Miss Lorraine. 55,000. Benefits. Day shift. He heard a sound he'd never heard before. Miss Lorraine crying. In 3 years, through every hard night and empty fridge and broken-down truck, she'd never once let him see her worry. Now she was sobbing into the phone. "Oh, Marcus. Oh, baby. Oh, thank God." "Miss Lorraine, don't cry." "I'll cry if I want to, Marcus Davis. Don't you tell me not to cry. I've been preying on this for 3 years. 3 years watching you kill yourself in that warehouse. 3 years watching you pretend you weren't tired. You think I didn't see? You think I didn't know?" "I know you knew." "Your daddy would be so proud. You hear me? Raymond would be so proud of you." Marcus closed his eyes. "Yes, ma'am." "When do you start?" "Monday." "Monday. Lord have mercy. Monday." She blew her nose loudly. "Don't you tell Zoe on the phone. You tell that baby in person. You pick her up from school and you tell her face to face." "That's the plan." "And Marcus?" "Ma'am?" "You go buy that girl a puppy." Marcus laughed. The sound filled the truck, and for the first time in 3 years, the truck didn't feel small. It felt like exactly enough. He drove to Zoe's school, parked in the pickup line 20 minutes early, sat there with the engine running and the heater wheezing, and a future he could actually see for the first time since Angela walked out the door. The school bell rang. Kids poured out. Marcus spotted Zoe immediately. Purple backpack, braids bouncing, scanning the parking lot with the intensity of a 7-year-old on a mission. She saw the truck. She saw him. And she ran. Marcus got out and knelt on the sidewalk, bad arm and all, and caught her. "Daddy, you're picking me up. You never pick me up." "I know, baby." She pulled back, studied his face. 7 years old, and she could read him like a book. "Daddy, you're smiling." "Yeah." "You're smiling real big." "Yeah." "Daddy," her eyes went wide, "did you get it?" "I got it, Zoe." She screamed, full volume, in the school parking lot. Every parent turned and looked, and Marcus didn't care. Zoe jumped up and down, grabbed his face with both hands, and kissed his cheeks so many times he lost count. "I told you! I told you!" "I said when, not if." "You did. You were right." "Does this mean you don't work at night anymore?" "No more nights, baby. I'll be home every evening. I'll make you dinner. I'll help with homework. I'll tuck you in every single night." Zoe's face changed. The excitement melted into something quieter, something deeper. Her lower lip trembled and her eyes filled up, and Marcus realized his 7-year-old daughter had been carrying the same weight he had. She'd just been carrying it quieter. "Every night?" she whispered. "Every night." She buried her face in his chest and held on. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby." "Can we get Captain now?" Marcus laughed and held his daughter and knelt on a cold sidewalk outside an elementary school, with a bandaged arm and a second-hand suit and a new job and a future. And for the first time in 3 years, he didn't have to tell himself to get up. He was already standing. Monday came like a dare. Marcus pulled into the Coal Enterprises parking lot at 6:22 a.m., 38 minutes before his shift started. Wearing khakis, a polo shirt with the company logo Jessica had mailed him over the weekend, and work boots he polished until they looked almost new. He sat in the truck and stared at the building. "You belong here," he said. He didn't believe it yet, but he said it. The facilities office was in the basement, sub-level 2. No windows, fluorescent lights that buzzed, a metal desk, a computer from 2019, and a wall of maintenance request forms going back 3 months, most of them unanswered. The previous facilities manager had quit without notice, and the building had been running on duct tape and prayer ever since. Marcus picked up the first request form. Broken HVAC unit on the 14th floor. Filed 8 weeks ago. He picked up the second. Leaking pipe in the 3rd floor women's restroom. Filed 10 weeks ago. The third was a fire safety inspection that was 2 months overdue. He started with the fire inspection. Of course he did. By 7 a.m., he'd mapped every fire exit in the building, checked every extinguisher, tested every alarm on the first 3 floors, and identified 2 emergency lights that were dead. By 8 o'clock, he'd called the HVAC contractor and scheduled a repair for that afternoon. By 9 o'clock, he was under a sink on the 3rd floor with a wrench, fixing the leak himself because waiting for a plumber meant waiting another week, and people needed a working restroom now. That's where Tom Whitfield found him. "You're the new facilities guy?" Marcus pulled himself out from under the sink. A man stood in the doorway, mid-40s, graying at the temples, expensive suit, the kind of watch that cost more than Marcus's truck. His arms were crossed, and his expression was the one Marcus had been reading his entire life. Assessment, judgment, conclusion, all before a single word. Marcus Davis, started today. Tom Whitfield, VP of Operations. Your boss, technically. Good to meet you, sir. Marcus extended his hand. It was wet from the pipe. Tom looked at the hand, didn't take it. Vanessa told me she hired someone with no corporate experience. I assumed she was exaggerating. I'm a fast learner. You'd have to be. Tom looked at the sink, the wrench, Marcus's knees wet from the floor. We usually call contractors for plumbing. The request was filed 10 weeks ago. Figured the women on this floor waited long enough. That's not really your call to make on day one. Respectfully, sir, a leaking pipe is everyone's call. Tom's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to pushback from the basement. Come see me before you make any more decisions about what is and isn't your call. He left. Marcus watched him go, then turned back to the pipe. Welcome to corporate America, he muttered. The first week was a war Marcus fought quietly. He arrived before anyone and left after most. He cleared the backlog of maintenance requests, 47 in total, working through them methodically, prioritizing safety issues first, then comfort, then cosmetics. He learned the building's systems by crawling through its guts, the boiler room, the electrical panels, the elevator shafts, the rooftop HVAC units. He read manuals at night after Zoe went to sleep, teaching himself the commercial-grade equipment he'd never worked on before. Nobody thanked him. Nobody noticed. That was fine. Marcus hadn't taken this job for applause. But Tom Whitfield noticed. And Tom Whitfield had a problem. It started small. A memo on Marcus's desk. All facilities expenditures over $50 require VP approval. Then an email, CCing half the executive team. Please route all maintenance scheduling through my office before proceeding. Then a meeting Marcus wasn't invited to, where Tom presented a proposal to outsource facilities management to a private contractor, effectively eliminating Marcus's position before his first month was up. Jessica told him about the meeting. She stopped by his basement office with coffee and a warning. I probably shouldn't be telling you this. But you are. Because it's wrong. Jessica set the coffee down. Tom pitched outsourcing your entire department to the executive team yesterday. He's been building the case since before you started. Before I started. He wanted to hire his own guy, someone from his network. When Vanessa overrode him and hired you, he took it personally. So this isn't about my qualifications. It's about control. Tom's been Vanessa's number 2 since the company had 20 employees. He's used to having final say on hiring. She went around him for you, and he wants to know why. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Does he know about the fire? No, nobody does. Vanessa kept her word. Jessica paused. But Tom's digging. He asked me to pull your application file. He asked HR for your background check. He's looking for something. He won't find anything. I'm clean. I know, but that's not the point. If he finds out that Vanessa was the woman in the fire, that you saved her and she hired you the same day, he'll use it. He'll say you got the job through favoritism. He'll take it to the board. Marcus sat with that. The coffee cooled, untouched. What do I do? Your job, Jessica said. Better than anyone could. That's the only answer I've got. She was right. Marcus knew she was right. But knowing didn't stop the feeling. The familiar, bone-deep exhaustion of having to be twice as good to be considered half as worthy. He'd felt it in the fire department. Felt it at the warehouse. Felt it every time he walked into a room and watched people do the math on his skin color before he opened his mouth. He went back to work. The second week, Marcus found the real problem. Not Tom Whitfield. Not office politics. The building itself. He was inspecting the electrical room on sub-level 3 when he saw it. A junction box with scorch marks around the casing. He opened it, and his blood went cold. The wiring inside was a mess. Overloaded circuits, frayed insulation. Connections that had been jerry-rigged by someone who didn't know what they were doing, probably years ago. Marcus had seen wiring like this before, in buildings that burned down. He pulled out his phone and called Darnell. "D, I need you to look at something." "What kind of something?" "Electrical. Bad electrical. The kind that starts fires." Darnell was there in an hour, off duty, in jeans and a hoodie. Marcus walked him through the electrical room. "Jesus Christ, Marcus." "Yeah, this is a code violation. Multiple code violations. This whole panel needs to be replaced." "I know. Has anyone inspected this building in the last 5 years?" "The inspection was overdue by 2 months when I got here. I don't think anyone's done a real one in years." "Marcus, this is dangerous. You've got 400 people working in this building. If this panel fails under load, I know what happens, D. That's why I called you. You need to shut this floor down and get a licensed electrician in here, yesterday. I need to talk to Vanessa first." He called Jessica. "I need a meeting with Miss Cole, today. It's urgent." 20 minutes later, he was in Vanessa's office. She closed the door behind him. "What's wrong?" "Your building has a serious electrical problem." Marcus laid it out. The junction box, the wiring, the code violations. "I had a firefighter buddy inspect it off the books. He says the whole panel needs replacing. If it fails under load, you're looking at a fire that starts in the walls, where nobody can see it until it's too late." Vanessa went pale. Understandable, given what she'd been through 3 weeks ago. "How bad?" "Bad enough that I'd pull everyone off sub-level 3 until it's fixed. Bad enough that whoever did the last electrical work on this building should lose their license." "Tom handled the last renovation," Vanessa said slowly. 2 years ago. He chose the contractor." They looked at each other. "If Tom cut corners on electrical work to save money," Marcus started, "then he put 400 people at risk." Vanessa's voice had changed. The warmth was gone. This was the woman who'd built a company from 3 employees. This was steel. "Can you get this fixed?" "I need authorization to bring in a licensed electrician. Full inspection, every floor. And I need it in writing so nobody can bury it." "You'll have it within the hour."
Vanessa, Tom's going to fight this.
Let him. He's your VP. He's been here since the beginning. And if he cut corners that could burn this building down, he won't be here much longer. She met Marcus's eyes. Do your job, Marcus. I'll handle Tom. Marcus nodded and turned to leave. Marcus, he stopped. This is why I hired you. Exactly this. He went back to the basement and started writing up the full report. Tom Whitfield came to find him 45 minutes later. The door to Marcus's office slammed open hard enough to hit the wall. What did you tell Vanessa? Marcus didn't stand. I told her the truth about the electrical system on sublevel 3. You went over my head. I went to the CEO about a safety issue that affects 400 employees. That's not going over your head. That's doing my job. Your job is to fix toilets and change light bulbs, not to conduct unauthorized inspections and bring in outside consultants. My job is to keep this building safe. The wiring on sublevel 3 is a fire hazard. It needs to be addressed. That wiring was installed 2 years ago by a licensed contractor. Then the licensed contractor did substandard work. I can show you the scorch marks on the junction box. I can show you the frayed insulation. I can show you overloaded circuits that violate 3 different building codes. Tom stepped closer. His voice dropped to the register men use when they want to intimidate without leaving evidence. You've been here 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And you think you're going to come in here and tell me how to run my building? It's not your building. It's Vanessa's building. And the people inside it deserve to be safe. You don't know what you're talking about. I was a firefighter for 12 years. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've seen buildings burn because of wiring just like yours. I've carried people out. I've seen what happens when someone decides that cutting corners is easier than doing it right. Tom's face went red. You're a warehouse worker who got lucky in an interview. Don't lecture me about, I'm the facilities manager of this building, and I'm telling you, professionally, on the record, that the electrical work on sublevel 3 is dangerous and needs to be repaired. If you want to override that, put it in writing. Sign your name to it. Because if something happens and someone gets hurt, there will be a paper trail, and it won't lead to me. The room was quiet for a long time. Tom stared at Marcus. Marcus stared back. He'd been stared at by worse men in worse places. A VP in a suit didn't scare him. Men who thought their title was a weapon didn't scare him. What scared Marcus was Zoe growing up in a world where people like Tom won because people like Marcus stayed quiet. This isn't over, Tom said. I know it isn't. Tom left. Marcus's hands were shaking under the desk. He waited until the footsteps faded, then exhaled. His phone buzzed. Darnell, how'd it go? Marcus typed. Made an enemy today. Darnell, good. Means you stood for something. The electrician's report came back 3 days later. It was worse than Marcus thought. Sublevel 3 wasn't the only problem. Floors 4 through 7 had similar issues. Substandard wiring, overloaded circuits, shortcuts that saved money and risked lives. The contractor Tom had hired 2 years ago had cut every corner that could be cut and billed full price. Vanessa called an emergency board meeting. Marcus was asked to present the findings. He stood in the conference room full of people who made more in a month than he made in a year, and laid it out. Floor by floor, violation by violation, risk by risk. Tom sat at the far end of the table. His face was stone. Based on the full inspection, Marcus said, the estimated repair cost is approximately $380,000. That's to bring the entire building up to current code. If we don't do this, we're looking at a liability exposure that makes $380,000 look like pocket change. A board member spoke up. Mr. Davis, Who authorized the original electrical work? Marcus looked at Tom. Tom looked at the table. That would be a question for Mr. Whitfield, Marcus said. He oversaw the renovation 2 years ago and selected the contractor. Every head turned. Tom's jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. The contractor was properly licensed, Tom said. Any deficiencies in their work are their liability, not ours. Their liability doesn't protect our employees, Marcus answered. If a fire starts from faulty wiring in a building we own, it's our responsibility. Period. Mr. Davis has been here 3 weeks, Tom said to the board. I've been here 12 years. I think we should consider the source of these claims. The source of these claims is a licensed fire inspection conducted by certified professionals, Marcus said evenly. The report is in front of you. Pages 12 through 15 detail the specific code violations with photographs. This isn't opinion. This is documented fact. Vanessa spoke for the first time. The board will approve the repairs. $380,000. Tom, I'll need a full accounting of the original renovation budget, where the money went, and why the work was substandard. By Friday. Vanessa, this is by Friday, Tom. The meeting ended. Marcus gathered his papers. Board members filed out, several of them nodding at Marcus as they passed. Not warmth, exactly. Respect. The kind you earn by telling a room full of powerful people something they didn't want to hear. Tom was the last to leave. He stopped next to Marcus. You think you won something today? Nobody won anything. 400 people almost worked in a building that could have caught fire. That's not a victory. I'm going to find out how you really got this job, Davis. I'm going to find out what Vanessa's hiding. And when you do, you'll find out that I applied online, interviewed, and got hired. Same as anyone. Tom leaned in. Nobody goes from loading trucks to this. Not like this. Not this fast. There's something else, and I'm going to find it. He walked out. Marcus stood alone in the conference room. His arm ached. The cut from the window had healed into an ugly scar, pink and ridged, a permanent souvenir from the morning that changed his life. He ran his thumb along it. Tom was going to dig. Tom was going to find the fire story. It had been on the news. Marcus's name was out there, and it was only a matter of time before someone connected the dots. Black warehouse worker saves woman from fire. Same black warehouse worker gets hired by the same woman 3 hours later. It wouldn't matter that Marcus was qualified. It wouldn't matter that he just saved the company from a potential disaster. The story would write itself. Favoritism, gratitude hire, charity case. Everything Marcus had earned in the last 3 weeks would disappear under a headline. He picked up his phone and called Vanessa. Marcus, good work today. Tom's going to find out about the fire. Silence. He told me he's digging into how I got hired. It's public record, Vanessa. The news ran my name. If he connects you to the fire, then he connects me to the fire. And he uses it to discredit both of us. Let me worry about Tom. I can't just let you worry about Tom. This affects me. This affects my job, my daughter, everything. Marcus, listen to me. I hired you because of who you are, not because of what you did on that ledge. Every day you've been here has proven that. The electrical inspection alone justified your entire salary for the next 5 years. That won't matter if the narrative becomes, CEO hires the guy who saved her life. You know how that plays. You know what people will say. What will they say? That I didn't earn it. The words hung in the air. 3 weeks of proving himself. 3 weeks of arriving first and leaving last. 3 weeks of crawling through electrical rooms and fixing leaks and learning systems he'd never touched before. And none of it would matter if the story became about the fire
instead of the work. "You earned it," Vanessa said. "Every day you earn it." You believe that. I believe that. But the board doesn't know me. The employees don't know me. All they'll see is the headline. Then we make sure the work speaks louder than the headline. And if it doesn't, then I'll stand in front of every board member and every employee and tell them exactly why I hired Marcus Davis. And it won't be because of a fire. It'll be because he walked into a building full of hidden dangers that my own VP missed or ignored, and he had the courage to say something. On his third week, with everything to lose. Marcus was quiet for a long time. "You still there?" Vanessa asked. "I'm here." "Marcus, I've been fighting for this company for 12 years. I know what it's like to have people question whether you belong. I'm a black woman running a 400-person corporation. Half the people I meet assume I inherited it or married into it. I built it, brick by brick. And I'll be damned if I let Tom Whitfield or anyone else tell me who deserves to be in my building." Marcus closed his eyes. "Yes, ma'am." "Now go home, see your daughter, and come back tomorrow ready to work." "I come back every day ready to work." "I know you do. That's why you're here." Marcus hung up. He packed his bag, turned off the lights in his basement office, and rode the elevator to the lobby. The building was quiet. Most people had gone home hours ago. He walked to his truck, sat in the driver's seat. The clock on the dashboard read 7:14 p.m. A year ago at this time, he'd have been 3 hours into a warehouse shift, loading pallets in the cold, counting the hours until he could go home and sleep on a pull-out couch for 4 hours before doing it again. Tonight, he was driving home to make dinner for his daughter. Tonight, Zoe would tell him about her day and show him her homework and ask him to read her a story. And he'd be awake for all of it. Tom Whitfield could dig all he wanted. He could find the fire story, connect the dots, build his case. Marcus couldn't control that. He could only control what he did tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. He turned the key. The truck started on the first try for once. His phone buzzed. Zoe, texting from Miss Lorraine's phone. "Daddy, when are you coming home? I have something to show you. It's very important. And also, can we have mac and cheese?" Marcus typed back. 15 minutes. Mac and cheese it is. What's the important thing? Zoe. "I can't tell you. It's a surprise." Marcus. "Good surprise or bad surprise?" Zoe. "Daddy, all my surprises are good." He laughed, pulled out of the parking lot, and drove toward the only thing that had ever mattered. The 7-year-old girl who believed her father was brave enough for anything, even when the world kept trying to prove her wrong. The surprise was a drawing. Zoe held it up with both hands when Marcus walked through the door. A crayon portrait of a man in a blue tie standing next to a tall building, with a little girl beside him and a dog that looked like a brown cloud with legs. "That's you? That's me? That's Captain, and that's your building," Zoe announced. "I made it at school. Mrs. Patterson said we could draw our families, and I drew our future family." Marcus took the drawing and studied it with the seriousness it deserved. "Why am I so tall?" "Because you're a superhero, Daddy. Superheroes are tall." "And Captain?" "He's fluffy. I decided he's fluffy now." "Good call." Marcus pinned the drawing to the refrigerator with a magnet, right in the center, where he'd see it every morning. "Mac and cheese in 20 minutes. Can I help?" "You can stir." "I'm an excellent stirrer." "I know you are." They cooked together. Marcus boiled the noodles, while Zoe stood on her step stool and stirred the cheese sauce with the concentration of a surgeon. She talked the entire time, about school,
About her friend Maya, who had a hamster named Beyonce. About a math test she was pretty sure she aced. About how Mrs. Patterson asked what her dad did for work, and Zoe told the whole class he was in charge of a big building downtown. In charge is a stretch, baby. No, it isn't. You're in charge of keeping everyone safe. That's the most important job. Marcus looked at his daughter. 7 years old, and she understood something most adults didn't. Yeah, he said. I guess it is. They ate at the kitchen table. A real kitchen table now. Bought second-hand, but solid. In the new apartment they'd moved into 2 weeks after Marcus started at Cole Enterprises. 2 bedrooms. Working elevator. Heat that came on when you turned the dial. Zoe had her own room again, and this time she'd painted stars and moons and a rocket ship on the wall because, she said, her old sky needed upgrading. Marcus had his own room too. First time in 3 years he'd slept in a real bed. The first night, he'd lain there staring at the ceiling, feeling guilty for being comfortable. After dinner, he helped Zoe with homework, read her 2 chapters of a book about a girl detective, and tucked her in. She grabbed his hand before he could stand up. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby."
Are you happy?
The question hit him somewhere deep. "Why do you ask?" "Because sometimes you look worried. Like when you think I'm not watching. You get this face." She scrunched her eyebrows together and pulled her mouth tight. A perfect imitation of Marcus thinking about Tom Whitfield. "I'm happy, Zoe. I promise." "Because of the new job?" "Because of you. The job helps, but you're the reason." She smiled. "Good. Because I need you to be happy, so you can be in a good mood when I ask about Captain again." "Good night, Zoe." "Good night, Daddy. I love you to the moon." "I love you past the moon." "I love you past the sun." "I love you past everything." "You can't love past everything, Daddy. Everything is already everything." "Then I love you everything." "That works." She rolled over, pulled her blanket up, and was asleep in 2 minutes. Marcus stood in her doorway and watched her breathe. This was what it was for. All of it. The warehouse years, the fire, the ledge, the interview, the fight with Tom. All of it led to this. A 7-year-old girl sleeping safely in her own room, in a warm apartment, with a father who'd be there in the morning. He closed her door gently and went to the kitchen to study. 3 manuals open on the table. Commercial HVAC systems, building automation, electrical code compliance. Every night after Zoe went to bed, Marcus read. 2 hours minimum. Learning the things he should have learned in college. The things other facilities managers learned in degree programs Marcus couldn't afford. He was underqualified. He knew it. Tom knew it. The board probably knew it. The only way to close that gap was to outwork it, and Marcus was willing to do that for as long as it took. His phone buzzed at 10:15 p.m. Vanessa. "Did I wake you?" "I don't sleep at 10:15. I study." "What are you studying?" "Electrical code compliance, chapters 14 through 18. "Marcus, you don't have to." "Yeah, I do. Tom's right about one thing. I'm underqualified. The only way to fix that is to stop being underqualified." Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "How's Zoe?" "Asleep. She drew a picture of our future family today. Me, her, and a dog named Captain." "She still wants that puppy." "She will want that puppy until the heat death of the universe." Vanessa laughed. It was a good laugh. Warm, unguarded, the kind she didn't use at work. Marcus had started noticing things like that. The difference between Vanessa in the office and Vanessa on the phone at 10:15 at night. He noticed, and then he told himself to stop noticing, because she was his boss, and this was his job, and he couldn't afford to complicate the one good thing that had happened to him in 3 years. "I called because I wanted to give you a heads up," Vanessa said. Tom submitted his renovation accounting today. The numbers don't add up. He billed the company $420,000 for the electrical renovation 2 years ago. But the actual work, based on what the inspectors found, was maybe $150,000 worth of materials and labor. So where's the other $270,000? That's what I'm trying to find out. He skimmed it. I can't say that without proof. Vanessa, he hired a contractor who did substandard work, billed the company full price, and the difference disappeared. That's not accounting error. That's theft. I know what it is, but I need documentation before I can act. If I move on Tom without proof, the board will see it as personal. And if you wait too long, he'll cover his tracks. I'm not waiting. I've got forensic accountants on it. But I need you to keep doing what you're doing, documenting everything. Every repair, every code violation, every dollar it costs to fix what his contractor broke. Build the case from the ground up.
I can do that.
I know you can.
There was a pause. The kind of pause that happens when two people have more to say than the conversation allows. Good night, Marcus. Good night, Vanessa. He hung up and went back to his manuals. But the words blurred. He kept thinking about her voice, about the way she'd asked about Zoe, about the laugh. Stop it, he told himself. Stop. He read until midnight, then slept. And for the first time in weeks, he didn't dream about the ledge. 6 weeks later, Tom Whitfield found what he'd been looking for. Marcus knew the moment he walked into the building on a Tuesday morning. The lobby felt different. People looked at him and then looked away too fast. Jessica met him at the elevator with coffee and a face that told him everything. He found it. This morning, he pulled the Channel 9 news archive. Your name, the fire, the date. He cross-referenced Vanessa's address. He knows she was the woman you saved. Who has he told? Everyone. He sent an email to the entire executive team at 6 a.m. Subject line, Conflict of interest in facilities hire. He's calling for a board review. Marcus's stomach turned to concrete. Where's Vanessa? In her office. She's been on the phone since 6:30. Marcus, he's framing it like you're a charity case. Like she hired you out of guilt, and you're unqualified, and the whole thing is a liability. What about the electrical report, the renovations, the money? He's spinning it, saying you fabricated the inspection findings to justify your position and discredit him. He's saying you and Vanessa are working together. Working together to what? Keep the building from burning down? To cover up a personal relationship. The words hit Marcus like a fist. There's no personal relationship. I know that. You know that. But the email implies it. And in corporate America, implication is enough. Marcus rode the elevator to the 4th floor. People in the hallway stepped aside. Not in deference, in avoidance. He could feel the whispers following him like smoke. He knocked on Vanessa's door. Come in. She was standing behind her desk, phone down, eyes hard. The steel was back, the same steel he'd seen in the meeting when she told Tom to have the accounting ready by Friday. You've seen the email, Marcus said. I've seen it. I'll resign. Today. You can say you investigated and determined there was a conflict of interest and let me go. It protects you and the company. Sit down, Marcus. Vanessa, sit down. He sat. You're not resigning. You're not going anywhere. Tom Whitfield sent that email because he's scared, not of you, of what you found. The forensic accountants finished their report last night. $273,000 unaccounted for. The contractor he hired? It's his brother-in-law's company. He's been funneling company money to his own family for 2 years. So he's trying to burn me before you burn him. Exactly.
And he's using the fire, our fire, to do it. He figured if he made the story about favoritism and a personal relationship, the board would focus on us instead of him. It's smart. It's desperate. And it's going to fail. How do you know? Because I'm calling an emergency board meeting this afternoon, and you're going to present everything. The inspection reports, the repair costs, the code violations, the financial discrepancy, all of it. On the record, in front of the full board. And the fire? The fact that you're the woman I pulled out of that building? Vanessa took a breath. I'm going to tell them. Vanessa, the whole truth. That you saved my life. That you interviewed the same day. That I hired you knowing that connection existed. And that every single day since, you have proven that decision was right. They'll say it was bias. Let them. Then let the work speak. 47 maintenance requests cleared in your first week. A safety crisis identified in your third. A $250,000 fraud uncovered in your second month. That's not bias. That's results. And if it's not enough, then I'll fight for you, the same way you fought for a stranger on a ledge. Marcus looked at her. CEO of a 400-person company, standing behind a desk that represented 12 years of her life's work, willing to put it all on the line for a warehouse worker she'd known for 2 months. Why? He asked. Why fight this hard for me? Because you're worth fighting for. And because the day I stop standing up for the right people is the day I don't deserve this desk. The board meeting was at 3 p.m. Marcus spent the morning in his basement office preparing, printing reports, organizing documents, rehearsing what he'd say until the words stopped feeling like someone else's and started feeling like his. At 2:45, Jessica stopped by. You ready? No. Good answer. Honest people are never ready. They're just willing. That's something you read somewhere? That's something I learned watching you for the last 2 months. Marcus gathered his files and took the elevator to the 18th floor. The conference room was full. 8 board members, Vanessa at the head, Tom at the opposite end. Tom was wearing his best suit. His hair was perfect. His face was the picture of wounded professionalism. Marcus walked in wearing khakis and a polo shirt with a company logo. His hands were still rough. His scar was still visible. He looked exactly like what he was, a working man in a room full of people who'd never loaded a truck or crawled under a sink or stood on a ledge 3 stories up with nothing between them and the ground but stubbornness. Mr. Davis, the board chair said, please begin. Marcus set his files on the table. His hands were steady. His voice was clear. My name is Marcus Davis. I've been the facilities manager at Cole Enterprises for 9 weeks. In that time, I've identified and resolved 47 deferred maintenance issues, discovered critical electrical code violations on 4 floors of this building, and coordinated a full safety inspection that revealed substandard work from the 2022 renovation. The estimated cost to repair the damage from that renovation is $380,000. This is exactly what I warned you about, Tom interrupted. He's been building a narrative since day one to justify his position and, Mr. Whitfield, you'll have your turn, the board chair said. Marcus continued. The inspection was conducted by licensed independent professionals. Their report is in your packets, pages 12 through 31. Photographs of every violation are included. Additionally, the forensic accounting team has identified a discrepancy of $273,000 between the renovation budget approved by this board and the actual cost of work performed. Tom's jaw tightened. The contractor used for the 2022 renovation, Whitfield and Associates, is owned by Gerald Whitfield, Mr. Tom Whitfield's brother-in-law. The room went silent. Board members turned to Tom.
His face was the color of ash. "That is a coincidence of name and nothing more," Tom said. "Gerald Whitfield's company was selected through a competitive bidding process." "There was no competitive bid," Marcus said. "I checked. The renovation was single-sourced. The approval was signed by one person." He placed a document on the table. Mr. Whitfield's signature. "This is a witch hunt," Tom said, his voice rising. "Orchestrated by a man who has no business being in this building." "A man who was hired, let's be honest about this, because he pulled Vanessa Cole out of a fire, and she felt obligated to give him a job. That's the real story here. Not my renovation budget, not electrical codes. The real story is that our CEO hired an unqualified warehouse worker because he saved her life, and now he's trying to tear down anyone who questions it." Every eye in the room moved to Marcus, then to Vanessa. Marcus felt it, the weight of the room, the judgment, the calculation. Everything he'd feared, the headline writing itself in real time. Charity case. Gratitude hire. A black man who didn't belong. He looked at Vanessa. She gave him a slight nod. "Mr. Whitfield is right about one thing," Marcus said. "On January 14th, I pulled a woman out of a burning building on 7th Street. I didn't know her name. I didn't know where she worked. I climbed a fire escape, crossed a ledge, and broke a window because someone was dying and I could help. 5 hours later, I walked into this building for a scheduled interview and discovered that woman was Vanessa Cole. The room didn't breathe. I offered to leave. I told Miss Cole to interview other candidates. She chose to hire me. You can question that decision. You can call it bias or favoritism or whatever word makes you comfortable. But here's what I've asked you to consider. In 9 weeks, I've identified a safety crisis that could have killed people in this building. I've uncovered a financial discrepancy that your own VP couldn't explain. I've cleared a maintenance backlog that was months old. Every report, every inspection, every document in front of you was produced by me, verified by independent professionals, and done on the record." Marcus looked directly at Tom. "Mr. Whitfield wants you to focus on how I got this job. I'd rather you focus on what I've done with it." He sat down. The room was quiet for a long time. The board chair removed his glasses, cleaned them, put them back on. "Mr. Whitfield, the forensic accounting report indicates that $273,000 allocated for the 2022 renovation cannot be accounted for. The contractor was your brother-in-law's firm. There was no competitive bid. Would you like to respond?" Tom opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I'd like to speak with my attorney before answering any further questions." The board chair nodded slowly. "I think that's wise. This meeting is adjourned. Mr. Whitfield, you are suspended pending a full investigation. Mr. Davis, thank you for your presentation." Tom stood. He gathered his things with the rigid precision of a man trying very hard not to come apart. He walked to the door, stopped next to Marcus, and leaned down. "You think you won." "I think 400 people are safer today than they were yesterday. That's not winning. That's the job." Tom walked out. He didn't come back. The conference room emptied slowly. Board members stopped to shake Marcus's hand on the way out. One of them, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, held his hand longer than the others. "Mr. Davis, I've been on this board for 8 years. That was the most honest presentation I've ever heard in this room." "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't thank me. Thank whoever raised you to tell the truth when it's hard." "That would be my father, Raymond Davis." "He did good work." "Yes, ma'am, he did." The room was empty now except for Marcus and Vanessa.
She was still at the head of the table. She hadn't moved. "Marcus?" "Yeah?" "It's done." "Is it?" "Tom's finished. The board will terminate him by end of week. The investigation will handle the rest." "And me? The conflict of interest?" "There's no conflict. I hired a qualified candidate. He proved himself. End of story." Marcus sat back in his chair. His body felt heavy. The good kind of heavy. The kind that comes after carrying something for a long time and finally setting it down. "I was scared," he said quietly, "walking in here today. I was scared they'd look at me and see what Tom wanted them to see. A charity case. A guy who got lucky." "And what did they see?" "I don't know." "I do. They saw a man who told the truth. In a room that's heard a lot of lies, that stands out." Marcus ran his thumb along the scar on his forearm, the one from the window, the one that started everything. "My dad used to say something," he said. He'd say, "Marcus, the world is going to decide what it sees when it looks at you. You can't control that. All you can control is what's true." I think about that a lot. "Your dad sounds like a wise man." "He was a steel worker, 31 years, died at 54. Never made more than 40,000 a year." But every person at his funeral said the same thing. Raymond Davis was the most honest man they ever knew. Marcus paused. "I just want to be that. For Zoe. I want her to grow up knowing her father told the truth, even when the truth was expensive." Vanessa looked at him for a long time. Something in her expression shifted. Something that had been shifting for weeks, maybe since the ledge, maybe since the interview, maybe since the first time she heard him talk about his daughter. Something neither of them was ready to name. "Go home, Marcus," she said softly. "Go see Zoe." "Yeah." He stood, gathered his files, walked to the door. "Marcus," he turned. "Your father was right, and so was Zoe." "About what?" "Blue means brave." Marcus held her gaze for a moment longer than professional. Then he nodded, walked out, and took the elevator to the lobby. Past the marble, past the glass, into the cold evening air. He sat in his truck and called Zoe. "Daddy, are you coming home?" Miss Lorraine made spaghetti, but she put mushrooms in it, and I ate around them, but she said, "That's rude," and I said, "It's not rude if mushrooms are disgusting." "I'm on my way, baby. 20 minutes. Did you have a good day?" Marcus thought about the boardroom, about Tom's face, about Vanessa's eyes, about 400 people who were safer tonight because he'd refused to stay quiet. "Yeah, Zoe, I had a good day." "Good, because I have another surprise." "Better than the drawing?" "Way better. Hurry up, Daddy." He drove home. The truck ran smooth, the heater worked, and for the first time since he'd started at Cole Enterprises, Marcus Davis didn't feel like he was pretending to belong somewhere he didn't. He belonged. Not because someone gave him permission, because he'd earned it. Brick by brick, report by report, truth by truth. The same way he'd crossed that ledge, one step at a time, with nothing to hold on to but the decision to keep going. The surprise was a report card. Zoe slapped it on the kitchen table like a poker player laying down a royal flush. Straight A's, every subject. A handwritten note from Mrs. Patterson at the bottom. "Zoe is a joy. She told the class her father taught her that smart means never stopping learning. You're raising a remarkable girl." Marcus read it twice, then a third time. "Well?" Zoe stood with her hands on her hips, chin up, waiting. Zoe Davis. Yes? Straight A's. I know, I was there. How did you get an A in math? You told me last week you didn't understand fractions. I didn't understand them last week. I understand them this week. I practiced. Every day? Every day, like you do with your manuals. You said if you don't know something, you learn it. So I learned it. Marcus put the report card down. His throat was tight. Come here. She walked over and he pulled her into a hug. Both arms, the scar stretching, but he didn't care. I'm so proud of you, he said into her braids. So proud. Proud enough for Captain? Marcus laughed. You're relentless. Mrs. Lorraine says relentless is a compliment when you use it right. Mrs. Lorraine is too smart for both of us. That night, after Zoe was asleep, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his manuals open and his phone on silent and tried to focus on Chapter 22 of Commercial Fire Suppression Systems. But his mind kept drifting. Not to work. Not to Tom Whitfield, who'd been officially terminated 2 weeks ago, after the board's investigation confirmed everything Marcus had presented. Not even to the electrical repairs, which were now 60% complete and on schedule. His mind kept drifting to Vanessa. It had been happening more and more. The phone calls at 10:15 that lasted longer than they should. The coffee she brought to his basement office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, always black, always the good stuff from the place on 9th Street, never with an explanation. The way she asked about Zoe with a specificity that went beyond polite. She remembered Zoe's friend Maya's hamster's name. She remembered the puppy named Captain. She remembered that Zoe's favorite color was purple and that she wanted to be a veterinarian or a detective, depending on the day. Marcus noticed all of it, and every time he noticed, he told himself to stop. She was his boss. She was the CEO. She was the woman who'd given him the chance nobody else would, and if he confused gratitude with something else, if he let whatever was growing between them take root, he'd risk everything. The job, the apartment, the life he was building for Zoe. All of it. So he read Chapter 22. And he didn't call Vanessa back when she texted at 10:47. How's the studying going? He didn't answer at 11:03 when she followed up. That was a normal question, not a CEO question, just a person question. He didn't answer at 11:15 when the third message came. Okay, good night, Marcus. He stared at those 3 words for a long time. Then he closed his phone, closed his manual, and went to bed. 3 months passed. Marcus earned his commercial building management certification. He passed the exam on the first try, studied every night for 12 weeks, took the test on the Saturday morning while Zoe stayed with Miss Lorraine, and walked out of the testing center with a score of 92%. Higher than candidates with engineering degrees. Higher than candidates with 10 years of corporate experience. Higher than anyone Vanessa could have hired instead. He put the certificate on the wall in his basement office and didn't tell anyone. Jessica noticed it 3 days later. When did you get this? Saturday. He didn't say anything. Nothing to say. I was underqualified. Now I'm less underqualified. Marcus, this is a big deal. Vanessa should know. Vanessa doesn't need to know about every certificate I hang on my wall. This isn't about a certificate. It's about you proving something. I'm not proving anything to anyone. I'm doing my job. Jessica looked at him the way she did when she knew he was lying to himself. You know she asks about you. She's my boss. She's supposed to ask about me. Not the way she asks. Not, how's the facilities report, Marcus? More like, how's Marcus? Is he eating? Is he sleeping? Did Zoe get Captain yet? Jessica, I'm just saying. Don't just say. Fine, but you should know. She hasn't dated anyone since I've worked for her. 4 years, nothing. And then you show up on a ledge, and suddenly she's buying good coffee for the basement. It's just coffee. It's never just coffee, Marcus. He asked her to drop it. She dropped it, but she smiled on her way out, and Marcus sat in his basement office and stared at the certificate on his wall and thought about coffee and ledges and the sound of Vanessa's laugh at 10:15 at night. The thing about walls is they only work if you don't build doors in them. It happened on a Thursday, late. The building was empty except for Marcus, who was finishing a quarterly safety report, and Vanessa, who was always the last to leave. He was in the elevator, heading to the lobby, when the doors opened on the 4th floor and she stepped in. Hey! Hey! The doors closed. 18 floors to the lobby. Vanessa pressed the button and stood beside him. Late night, she said. Quarterly report. You could do that during business hours. I can do it better when the building's quiet. Marcus? Yeah? Why haven't you been answering my texts? The elevator hummed between floors. Marcus watched the numbers count down. Because I don't know how to answer them. They're just texts. No, they're not. And you know they're not. Vanessa was quiet. 15. 14. 13. You're right, she said. They're not just texts. You're my boss, Vanessa. I know. You gave me this job. You gave me this life. Everything Zoe has right now, the apartment, the school, the fact that I'm home every night to tuck her in, that's because of you. That's because of you. I opened a door. You walked through it and built everything on the other side. If people find out, people will talk. People always talk. I'm a black woman running a company in a city that still isn't sure how to feel about that. I've been talked about my entire career. This is different. After Tom, after the fire story, if they find out the CEO is dating the facilities manager she hired after he saved her life, it writes itself. Every headline, every whisper. They'll say I didn't earn any of it. You earned all of it. You and I know that. The world doesn't care what we know. 9. 8. 7. So what do you want to do? Vanessa asked. I want to protect what I've built. For Zoe. And I want to stop pretending I don't think about you every night after she falls asleep. The elevator stopped. Doors opened. Lobby. Empty. Marble. Light. Neither of them moved. I think about you too, Vanessa said. I've been thinking about you since you appeared on that ledge. And I told myself it was gratitude. Then I told myself it was admiration. Then I told myself it was professional respect. But I've run out of lies, Marcus. I don't want to lie to myself anymore. What do you want? Dinner. Just dinner. You, me, and a restaurant where nobody knows either of us. One dinner. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. We go back to quarterly reports and good coffee. But if it's something, Marcus said. It's already something. That's what scares me. Does Zoe scare you? Zoe terrifies me. Every day. Because the thought of letting her down, you could never let her down. Angela did. Angela looked at us and decided we weren't enough and walked out. What if I'm not Angela? Vanessa's voice was firm but gentle. I'm not someone who walks away from things that matter. I built a company from 3 employees. I don't quit. And if the board has a problem, then I'll handle the board the same way I handled Tom. With the truth. Marcus looked at her, standing in an empty elevator in an empty lobby at 9 p.m. on a Thursday. CEO of a 400-person company. The woman from the ledge. The woman from the window. The woman who'd been buying him coffee twice a week for months and pretending it meant nothing. One dinner, he said. One dinner. Somewhere Zoe would approve. Where would Zoe approve? Anywhere with unlimited breadsticks. Vanessa laughed.
That laugh, the real one, the unguarded one.
The one that made Marcus feel like the elevator was falling, and he didn't mind. "Breadsticks it is," she said. They walked out together. Separate cars, separate drives home. But something had shifted between them. A door neither of them was willing to close anymore. The dinner was on Saturday, then another dinner on Wednesday, then a walk in the park on Sunday, where they talked for 3 hours, and Marcus told her about his father, and the steel mill, and the funeral where everyone said Raymond Davis was the most honest man they'd ever known. Vanessa told him about her mother, who'd cleaned houses for 30 years and saved every penny so Vanessa could go to college, and who'd called Vanessa every Sunday since she'd started the company to ask one question. "Are you happy, baby?" "What do you tell her?" Marcus asked. "I tell her I'm working on it." "And now?" Vanessa looked at him. "Now I think I'd tell her yes." They dated for 3 months before Marcus told Zoe. He sat her down at the kitchen table on a Saturday morning with pancakes and orange juice and the seriousness of a man delivering a State of the Union address. "Zoe, I need to talk to you about something important." "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby, nobody's in trouble." "Then why do you have your serious face?" "Because this is serious. You know Miss Vanessa from Daddy's work? The lady who sends me birthday cards and knows about Captain?" "That's her. Well, Daddy and Miss Vanessa have been spending time together, outside of work, and I wanted to tell you because you're the most important person in my life, and I don't do anything important without telling you first." Zoe ate a pancake bite and looked at him with the expression of a 7-year-old who'd been expecting this conversation for weeks. "You mean like a girlfriend?" "I mean yes, like a girlfriend." "Does she make you happy?" "She does." "Does she like dogs?" What?" "Does she like dogs? Because Captain is non-negotiable, Daddy." Marcus stared at his daughter. "You're not upset?" "Why would I be upset? You smile more now. You didn't smile a lot before. And Mrs. Lorraine said it's because you have a special friend. And I said I hope so because Daddy deserves to smile." "Mrs. Lorraine talks too much." "Mrs. Lorraine is wise, Daddy. She says so herself." "Zoe, I need you to know, nobody is ever going to replace you. Nobody is ever going to come before you. You are my first, my always." "Daddy, I know. Can Miss Vanessa come for dinner sometime? I want to show her my stars." Marcus couldn't speak for a moment. This kid, this impossible, perfect, resilient kid. "Yeah, baby, I'll invite her. Tell her I'm making scrambled eggs, and tell her they might be too salty. But that's my style." Vanessa came to dinner that Tuesday. She sat at the kitchen table in jeans and a sweater, no CEO, no corporate armor, and ate Zoe's 2 salty scrambled eggs and told her they were the best she'd ever had. "Really?" Zoe narrowed her eyes. "Because Daddy says that too, and I think you're both lying." "We're not lying. We're appreciating. That's what liars say." Vanessa laughed so hard she almost choked on her orange juice. Marcus watched them, his daughter and this woman, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Wholeness. The sense that the pieces of his life weren't scattered anymore. They were clicking together, one by one, forming something he'd stopped believing was possible. After dinner, Zoe showed Vanessa her room. The stars, the moons, the rocket ship, the drawing on the refrigerator, the one with Marcus and Zoe and Captain. "You can be in the next drawing," Zoe said, "if you want." "I'd like that very much," Vanessa said. "Do you like purple?" "I love purple." "Good. You'll be in purple." That was it. No grand acceptance speech. No awkward adjustment period. Zoe decided Vanessa belonged, and so Vanessa belonged. 7 years old, and she understood something it took most adults a lifetime to learn. Love isn't about where someone comes from. It's about whether they show up. A year passed. Then 2. Marcus was promoted to Director of Operations, a title he'd earned through certifications, results, and the kind of work ethic that made other directors uncomfortable. The electrical repairs were completed. The building passed its first clean safety inspection in 5 years. Employee satisfaction scores hit a company record. And the man who'd started in a basement office with a metal desk and a wall of unanswered maintenance requests now had a corner office on the 10th floor with his name on the door. Director of Operations, Darnell said, standing in Marcus's office with his arms crossed and a grin he couldn't suppress. My boy who used to eat gas station sandwiches at 2 in the morning between warehouse runs. I still eat gas station sandwiches. No, you don't. Your girlfriend is a CEO. You eat whatever CEOs eat. She's not my girlfriend anymore. Darnell's grin disappeared. What? What happened? Did you... Marcus held up his left hand. A ring. Simple. Gold. 3 days old. You did not. I did. Marcus Davis. Keep your voice down, Dee. This is a corporate building. I don't care about your corporate building. You're getting married. Darnell grabbed him and lifted him off the ground. Marcus's back cracked in 3 places. When? How? Did you get on one knee? Tell me everything. Put me down first. No. Dee. Fine. Darnell set him down. Talk. Marcus sat on the edge of his desk. Last weekend. Zoe helped me plan it. We took Vanessa to the park, the one where we had our first real walk. Zoe was carrying the ring in her backpack. I was so nervous I almost threw up twice. Twice? Once in the car, once behind a tree. Romantic. When we got to the bench where Vanessa and I had sat the first time, Zoe said, "Daddy has a question for you." And she handed me the ring. And I got on one knee. What did Vanessa say? She didn't say anything for about 10 seconds. I thought she was going to say no. I thought I'd misread everything. And then Zoe said, "Miss Vanessa, you're supposed to say yes. We practiced this." And Vanessa started crying and laughing at the same time and said yes. Darnell's eyes were wet. He wiped them with the back of his hand. Man, don't make me cry in your corporate building. You started it. Your dad would have loved this. I know. He would have loved Vanessa. I know that too. And Zoe? How's she handling it? She asked Vanessa one question. Does this mean you're my mom now? And Vanessa said, only if you want me to be. And Zoe said, I've wanted that since the scrambled eggs. Darnell pulled Marcus into another hug. Gentler this time. The hug of a man who'd watched his best friend survive the worst years of his life and come out the other side holding something good. I'm happy for you, brother. Real happy. Thanks, Dee. Now, can we talk about the bachelor party? There's not going to be a bachelor party. There's absolutely going to be a bachelor party. The wedding was small, a Saturday afternoon in the park with 40 guests. Miss Lorraine in the front row crying before the ceremony even started. Darnell, as best man, in a suit he'd bought specifically for the occasion. Jessica and 3 of Vanessa's college friends as bridesmaids. And Zoe, as flower girl, in a purple dress she'd picked out herself. Marcus wore a new suit. His first new suit. Charcoal gray, like the one from Goodwill. But this one fit. Vanessa had offered to buy it. He'd said no. He'd save for it himself, month by month, because some things a man needs to earn even when someone offers to give them. Zoe walked down the aisle, throwing petals with the intensity of someone defusing a bomb. Every petal placed with purpose. The guests laughed. Marcus didn't. He was watching his daughter's face, the focus, the joy, the absolute seriousness of a 9-year-old who understood that this moment mattered. When Vanessa appeared, Marcus forgot how to breathe, not because of the dress, though the dress was beautiful, not because of the moment, though the moment was everything, but because 3 years ago, 3 years and 4 months to be exact, he'd been driving home from a warehouse shift at 7:15 in the morning, and he'd heard a woman scream, and he'd climbed a ledge he had no business being on, and he'd broken a window with his bare fist, and he'd pulled a stranger out of a fire.
And now that stranger was walking toward him in white, with tears on her face, and a smile that made the whole world smaller and warmer and safer. "Who gives this woman?" the officiant asked. "She gives herself," Vanessa's mother said from the front row. "She's been giving herself her whole life. Today, she's choosing to share." The vows were simple. Marcus went first. "Vanessa, I'm not good at speeches. I'm good at fixing things. And for a long time, I thought my life was something that needed fixing. Something broken that I had to hold together with duct tape and overtime. Then I met you, on a ledge, which is not how most love stories start." Quiet laughter. "You didn't fix me. You showed me I was never broken. You showed Zoe that a family can be something you build, not just something you're born into. And you showed me that the bravest thing I ever did wasn't climbing that building. It was letting someone in after years of keeping everyone out." Vanessa wiped her eyes. Then she spoke. "Marcus, the day you appeared on that ledge, I was preparing to die. I'd accepted it. And then there you were, no gear, no backup, bleeding, terrified, standing on 6 inches of brick because you heard a stranger scream. You didn't know my name. You didn't know I was a CEO or what I could offer you. You just knew someone needed help. That's who you are. Not the man who saved my life. The man who would save anyone's life. The man who fixes what's broken, who tells the truth when it costs him, who raises a daughter so extraordinary that she picked out your tie and told you blue means brave." Vanessa looked at Zoe. "She was right. You are brave. And I am so grateful that you didn't keep driving." Zoe, from her spot beside the altar, whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is the best day ever." Marcus laughed. Vanessa laughed. 40 people laughed and cried at the same time. They exchanged rings. They kissed. Zoe inserted herself between them and hugged them both simultaneously. "We're a family now," she said. "An official one." "We were always a family, baby," Marcus said. "Now it's just on paper." At the reception, Miss Lorraine found Marcus alone for a moment, refilling his water glass, watching Vanessa dance with Zoe across the room. Zoe was standing on Vanessa's feet, both of them spinning slowly, both of them laughing. "Your daddy would be so proud of you, Marcus." "I know, Miss Lorraine." "No, I don't think you do." She took his hand. Her fingers were thin and warm and strong. "When Angela left, I watched you disappear. Not all at once, a little at a time. Every night you went to that warehouse, you came back with a little less of yourself. And I kept thinking, somebody's got to see this man. Somebody's got to see what I see." "You saw me." "I did, but I'm an old woman with a lot of love and no one to give it to. Vanessa sees you the way the world should see you, the way Zoe sees you, the way your father would see you." "Miss Lorraine, don't make me cry at my own wedding." "I'll cry if I want, and so will you." She squeezed his hand. "Raymond raised a good man. You're raising a good girl. And now you found a good woman. That's not luck, Marcus. That's character. Everything you have, you earned. Don't let anyone ever tell you different." "Yes, ma'am." "Now go dance with your wife.
I'll hold your water glass." Marcus walked across the room. Vanessa saw him coming and smiled. Zoe saw him and held out her hand. "Daddy, we're dancing." "I can see that. Can I join?" "Only if you promise not to step on my feet." "I'll do my best." "Your best is sometimes not great at dancing, Daddy." "She's right," Vanessa said. "You're a terrible dancer." "I climbed a burning building for you." "And I'm very grateful. You're still a terrible dancer." Marcus took Vanessa's hand and Zoe's hand, and the three of them turned slowly in the middle of the room, surrounded by people who loved them, held up by the kind of joy that only comes after years of surviving without it. 4 years. That's how long it had been since Marcus Davis pulled his truck to the curb on 7th Street and heard a woman screaming. 4 years since a 6-inch ledge and a broken window, and a choice that could have killed him. 4 years since a second-hand suit and a blue tie, and an interview that became a life. He hadn't climbed that building because he was brave. He'd climbed it because he couldn't not climb it. Because the sound of someone in pain activated something in him that was deeper than fear, deeper than self-preservation, deeper than logic. He'd been built that way, by Raymond Davis, by 12 years on a fire crew, by 3 years of getting up every morning and telling himself to keep going when the world gave him no reason to. And now he was here. Director of Operations, husband, father, standing in a room full of people who saw him, really saw him, for the first time in his life. Later that night, after the reception, after Miss Lorraine had been driven home, after Darnell had hugged Marcus one final time and whispered, "You made it, brother," into his ear, after Zoe had fallen asleep in the back seat of the car with frosting on her dress and a flower crown tilted over one eye, Marcus and Vanessa sat on the front steps of their home. Their home. The brownstone they'd bought together 6 months ago, with a yard for Captain, who was right now asleep on Zoe's bed. 70 pounds of golden retriever and unconditional love. "You okay?" Vanessa asked. "Better than okay." "You're quiet." "I'm thinking." "About what?" "About how I almost didn't stop." "On 7th Street?" "I was 2 blocks from home. I'd worked 10 hours. My back was killing me. I had the interview. I had every reason to keep driving." "But you didn't. I heard you scream. And you couldn't walk past it." "I couldn't walk past it." Vanessa leaned her head on his shoulder. "You know what I think about? I think about the 6-inch ledge. I think about the fact that there was no path between the fire escape and my window. No walkway, no ladder, nothing. Just crumbling brick. And you got on it anyway." I try not to think about that part. I think about it all the time. Because that's the moment, not the rescue, not the interview. The moment you stepped onto a ledge that shouldn't have held you, with nothing below but concrete, and nothing ahead but a window you'd have to break with your bare hands. That's when I knew. Knew what? That whoever you were the kind of person who moves toward the thing everyone else runs from. And that's not training. That's not instinct. That's character. Marcus was quiet for a while. A dog barked somewhere down the street. The city hummed its nighttime hum. "Zoe asked me something the other day," he said. "What?" "She asked me if I was scared when I was on the ledge. And I told her the truth. I told her I was terrified. And she said, 'Then why did you do it?' And I said, 'Because someone needed help, and I could help.' And she thought about it for a minute and said, 'Daddy, that's what brave means. Not being not scared. Being scared and doing it anyway.' She's 9. She's 9 and she's smarter than every board member I've ever met.
Vanessa laughed. Don't tell them that. I tell them that every day, just not with words. They sat together in the quiet, husband and wife, partners. Two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and built the best possible life. Not because it was easy, not because someone handed it to them, but because they chose it. Every day. Every argument, every challenge, every moment when the world told them they didn't make sense. They chose each other anyway.
Marcus thought about his father, about 31 years at the steel mill, about a man who never made more than $40,000 and died at 54 and was remembered by every person who knew him as the most honest man alive. Raymond Davis never got the corner office, never got the promotion, never got the life he deserved. But he'd given Marcus something no job title could match: the knowledge that who you are matters more than what you have. Hey, Vanessa. Thank you. For what? For not dying before I got to you. She laughed and cried at the same time, the way she had when Zoe handed him the ring in the park, and Marcus held her on the front steps of their home and watched the city lights, and knew, with the certainty of a man who'd stood on a 6-inch ledge and lived, that this was everything. Not the job, not the title, not the building or the salary or the suit that finally fit. This. A sleeping daughter upstairs. A dog on her bed. A woman who saw him, all of him, the warehouse worker and the firefighter and the father and the man who was still learning, still studying, still getting up every morning and telling himself to keep going. Because Marcus Davis was never the man on the ledge. He was the man who kept moving after the ledge, who kept showing up, who kept telling the truth when the truth was expensive, who kept loving his daughter with everything he had, even when everything he had wasn't enough. And in the end, that's what saved him. Not the fire, not the interview, not the woman behind the desk. It was the thing he'd carried his whole life, the thing Raymond taught him, the thing Zoe saw in him, the thing no resume could prove and no title could give. Character. The only thing in this world you build by hand and no one can take away.